Please welcome the new CEO of the National Geographic channel, because it was a blur looking back. What actually happened? I personally consulted with a $100 million company that is still in business today. A $30 million company who's looking to acquire me. Photography is massive. There is a big business out there.
Back to the Lifestyle Entrepreneur Show. I am, of course, your host, Mark, and this is the show where we believe in working less and living more. And we do that by building businesses that allow you to buy back your time, spend more time with your family, less time working, and give you the financial freedom that you deserve. So if that sounds like your thing, subscribe on YouTube and on Spotify. And without further ado, let's get into the episode. Today, I have a very special guest for everyone. We have Scott Proposki, who is a photographer, entrepreneur, and author who spent 27 years behind the camera photographing for some of the biggest brands in the world, like National Geographic, the White House, Microsoft, HBO, and some of the world's top brands and celebrities. In 2019, he published Camera Focused, which is a book designed to help creatives and photographers with ADHD tap into their strengths and really build businesses around their unique superpowers. But what Scott didn't know was that the book he wrote for others would later be the one that saved him. Because when the pandemic shut the world down, Scott's entire photography business disappeared in 1 week. He stepped away from everything and spent 3 difficult years navigating silence, depression, and having to rebuild his identity from the ground up. And through that journey, the principles inside Camera Focus helped Scott reinvent himself and inspired him to create the Camera Focus method, which is a step-by-step system that teaches photographers how to build confident, clear, and resilient businesses that can survive anything. Today, Scott's mission is bigger than photography. He's here to help creatives build lives and businesses that last a lifetime. And I think he is the perfect guest to bring on to the Lifestyle Entrepreneur Show. So Scott, welcome to the show.
Well, Mark, thanks for having me here. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to get started to really understand what your photography business was like before COVID, before 2020. You've photographed some of the biggest brands in the world. And I'm sure a lot of photographers and creatives listening to this are like, I would love to get a deal with National Geographic or the White House. So how did you build that base as a photography business to start?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like most entrepreneurs, you start a business, don't really have a plan. And then before you know it, it kind of grows. But I never really thought it would grow this big. And so you didn't have goals like we have today, at least I do today. For the people listening that didn't have a goal, that just did, well, I'll do this. And honestly, looking back, Mark, over the past 25 years, one job led to the next and next, and that one led to the next. And I could actually take a pencil and actually put a graph to actually each one got me to the next step. And honestly, it was showing up that led me to somebody else, that led me to somebody else, that led me to somebody else. And we didn't have social media as much as we did 25 years ago. So it really today, I believe it goes back to old school, basic referrals and showing up.
So when you say it led you to them, are these like the people that you would meet on like a photography shoot? You'd work with them, build that relationship up. And then, 6 months down the line, 18 months down the line, they reach out to you again. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. And if I can share a story with you about National Geographic, because it's the number one question people ask. And for years, honestly, I don't know if I answered it really good. And I used to say, well, I called them. Did you? And, it's true, but yet let's give a better content of how I got in. Right. And it really, I did get this initial call. It was an event in New York City. And this particular one was to print photos on site, to put people in the cover of the magazine that came out that day. Right. And it was novelty, and it is still today. Right. But to print an 8x10 in less than a minute, 25 years ago, and it's the actual cover of the magazine for a big launch that National Geo had. They have all the advertisement people there, the marketing people. It was one of these events where they wear, tuxedos, the black and whites, and it was the primo of primo events. And we're setting up for events, and we were hired to take photos and print photos. That was my why. That's what I wanted to do, not other things. And yeah, I did weddings before, but my mission was to do print on site for corporate events. That's all I stuck to. And we were at the event and I brought my team. And there was just this one person, this small woman. She's very tiny, very small. And we noticed that she was in the line taking photos like all the time. And, we had these really nice folders that we slide the photos in, right? Do you ever see those before, Mark? With those big, nice folders, right? And one of my team members came up to me and said, Scott, this lady, she has like a stack of these photos. What do we tell this person? Like, I said, what do you mean? I said, and I went back to my why. Like, why are we here? Right? Take photos and print photos, not to certain people or whoever shows up at the events. I said, that's what we're here to do. Take photos and print photos. No limit to how many. I got a little bit of rolling eyes. Okay, whatever. And I stuck to it. I said, no, okay, doesn't matter. And later in the night, they had the awards ceremony. And it was right after dinner. And they had the dessert time. And the host of the show gets on stage and says, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new CEO of the National Geographic Channel. And this little tiny woman stands up out of the audience. And she walks up on stage with a stack of these photos and folders, like a stack. She walks up on stage and she goes, it is absolutely an honor to be here. And and before she even got into her presentation, even thanking everybody, it was like, if you haven't had your photo taken over in Scott's team, over there by the other side of the conference center, he's going to put you in today's recent issue of National Geographic. The team and me, we just dropped our eyes out. We didn't know what to say. And that relationship lasted 11 years.
Wow. That's such a powerful story. I remember I used to go on the founders hikes with Dan Martell when I lived in Kelowna, and I got and I got to, rub shoulders and talk with, entrepreneurs that are running $100 million businesses and beyond. And the one thing I notice about successful entrepreneurs is they have that mentality where it's like, they come back to their why. They're like, no, we're here for photos. Like, who cares if there's one person that like is just a super photo nerd and like wants to take up all the time? Like, that's what we're here for.
Awesome.
And just like not like discounting anyone that might be like, a waste of time or whatever, right? Or like not adhering to whatever the program is. And so I really do notice that as a common trait with entrepreneurs, that they treat everyone equally, at least the successful ones. They're never too busy for anyone, especially if it's aligned with their mission. Mm. So I want to get really like tactical here on this photography journey that you had, because I know a lot of creatives out there, at least the ones that I've talked to, they tend to like diminish or less necessarily like not really sell themselves or not feel comfortable trying to like say, hey, like hire me for your next gig. So do you have any tips for photographers out there that are going to a shoot and maybe not telling people, hey, I want to work more because they feel uncomfortable saying that, and they're like, well, if they like me, they'll come find me. I see so many creatives with that attitude. What would your advice be for them?
Well, there's so many photographers, there's so much noise out there that honestly, they're probably going to forget about you. I don't care how good you are. Photo, this, your website, this, that, photo, all they remember is something photo. They actually really didn't retain the whole website name or even your name for that matter, for the most part, right? Especially your first one-off client. But what people do remember is stories, just like the one I just shared with you. What people don't like is the photographers and the creatives. And listen, I was one of them at one time, kind of like an ego. Well, I'll tell you what I can do. I can do this. I can do that. And it's like, oh, please stop, right? They don't want to listen to that. It's not about you. It's about them. But if you can tie it into a story, it's actually selling. And what I just did to you just moments ago about how I got into National Geographic is a story. But my credibility goes sky high. And I was selling myself without even knowing that I was selling myself to the other person. The other person didn't read that. It didn't read like I was being sold to, right? But a good story.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. And even like hearing your story as well, like I resonate with it where I'm like, oh, Scott seems like the type of person that like I would want to be around, because you did have that like that kindness, that care to the craft, and that's what created that story for you and that amazing connection that you had. So You've been running your business for 27 years, very successful, fantastic business. What happened with COVID?
Yeah. So that's a story, right? We got post-COVID, pre-COVID. Post-COVID, life was chaos looking back. By the way, it took me 3 years to articulate what I'm about to say. We can even say that word because it was a blur looking back. What actually happened? But where I was back then in 2019 is I was on a book launch. I just launched my book, Camera Focus. I enjoyed writing that book so much. It was most of the busiest time in my career. We were doing, 7 figures in 1 month in sales. And I would have to fly to each location. We had pop-ups locations in different states around the country. And I was I was in the airplane more than I was taking photographs because I wanted to meet everybody at each location. And I really wrote my book mostly on my iPhone, traveling in the airplane, because I could write 700 words and notes and send it to my team and give it that, and they recycle it, send it back to me. So I had the key points of the whole book written on my iPhone, and it was amazing. The book got launched, and the purpose of the book was to find an investor for the company because we were just about to hit a $4.2 million contract, and I sold it like I had it, no problem, and it wasn't a problem. Did I have the team to support it at that moment in time? No, but I would have. And that's what you do. You sell it, then build it. I sold it. And so the collaboration, it even made more sense because now I had evaluation. This was the goal. This was the goal. And within a week of the book being launched, I did have an investor from LA to my office in Boston, 2 or 3 months collaborated. And it wasn't like I wanted to sell it. It was about collaborating. How can I make it bigger? What a bigger team. Let's join forces. Because what you don't know is, most people don't know, is there is a lot of big photography companies out there. I personally consulted with $100 million company that is still in business today. A $30 million company who's looking to acquire me. Photography is massive. There is a big business out there. And this is how companies work. Smaller, you collaborate and make them bigger, right? This is how it's supposed to happen. But going back to your question, that's a lot of chaos. There's a lot going on. There's book tours, there's investors, there's all that going on. We're in a busy season. It's Q4 and Q1 comes in. A lot of time is spent when you're trying to get a investor time just preparing for that. And the business hopefully you got a team running the business because you're spending so much time, sometimes too much time, trying to prepare for that. And I was. But then it was March 2020. And I was writing my second book called Be Focused at the time. And I told my team, I said, you know what? I said, I think we're going to have a global pandemic. And I really think things are going to get shut down. And I remember it like clear as day. Everybody looked at me and they said, what? Pan what? Oh, what? And I said, yeah, I think I'm going to write it in my book about this global pandemic. And it was about honeybees and viruses and the viruses that take over honeybees and viruses that are going to take over companies. It was a great metaphor. And they said, you're not actually going to do that, are you? I said, yeah, I am. That was on the 19th. The 20th came, world shut down, sat in my office by myself in this building. I picked up my computer, my laptop, and a box, brought it down to the dock, backed up my truck, loaded up what I could. I saw a few people. They said, Scott, where are you going? I said, I'm all done. We're going to be shut down. We're done. I knew right then and there, everything I worked for, there was no chance it was going to come back to build 52 team members around, find another investor, bring this all back up. We're in the event photography business. We're from working with the New England Patriots with 50,000 people or being at the White House for an event. That wasn't going to happen for a long time. And it's still kind of, right, for big events. Maybe it's bad, but I do. There was absolutely no chance. I do. I was done.
So did your business close for sure? You laid off all 52 employees? What exactly happened?
We had to stop, right? Obviously, we could work and try to keep it going as much as you could. Oh, it would be good. I didn't think so, but I'm like, okay. Then if you remember correctly, 2021, COVID kind of came back in another wave, and a wave where they're not doing events. They weren't doing events. And that was another hit. That was hit number 2. So now we're going into year 3. So then Scott ends up breaking his shoulder and breaking his knee. Okay, that took a year to recover. I guess it was a good time. Gave me time to think. Couldn't do anything. By that time, I kept the business going, but it wasn't at the capability or the capacity that I had. And not that I'm old, but at 57 years old, I wasn't about to bring this all back and reinvest and bring it back. But here's the one thing that I learned, Mark. I didn't lose because I lost. It just ended. And I had an amazing journey. And I got to let that go. What could be, or what could have, or what should have. It didn't happen. It was a direction I was going, but you got to let it go. Pick up where I left off and find out what was I really good at. It was building a team and relating to people just like I am now. Because in 21, 22, when you're in a deep depression, you don't know where to think. You don't even want to leave your house to talk to anybody. Never mind to reach out to people and be on a podcast and talk about your story like I am today. This would never have happened. So it was once an amazing career. It still was. And I want to help other people pick up where I left off.
Does anything still exist from your photography business, or is that entire team, like, have they all moved on now?
I still keep in touch with a lot of the people. I still keep the business up and running. Like, I take on some of my key clients. I live here in Boston, and the New England Patriots is one of my clients. They just happen to be top of the NFL right now. The area, so it's very high demand right now. So I offer a really unique product and service for them. That I have an event next Sunday with them. And then I just got a call this morning with the NHL to do events for them. So the channels are still open, and the possibilities, maybe, but I'm keeping my key clients. And I'm really keeping the key clients because I want to actually documentate everything that I'm doing. And I'm adding this part of my program because somebody said to me, I was on a sales call, I was promoting my coaching program. And they said, yeah, Scott, well, that was back in the day when you did it. Things are different today. Back in the day, what are you talking about? I said, all right, bring it on. So I went back out, booked some jobs, did some headshot jobs, 5K, 2K, here or there. I'm like, I know this thing, it works. And now I talk to people and like, I did the same job last Thursday. I know it works. I'm with the Patriots on Sunday. I know it works. I'm doing it. So I'm not like back in the day, and I know technology changed and AI's out there. It has something to do with it. It's happening, and you can get big corporate clients.
And how would you recommend, with my marketing agency, I see a lot of, it's almost like as clear as day, where the first problem an entrepreneur faces is I need to figure out how to get my first 10 clients. And then I need to figure out a little bit of like some sort of marketing system to like get more. But then the very next problem that we always see them have is the next problem is people. And it's either they're not aware of networking, or they forego their networking that they used to do, or they can't hire the right team members. And you just said that it's possible right now. And one thing that you told me before this interview is that something you changed your mind on in the past year is that today, being a solo entrepreneur, a solo creative, and running a business of one has never been so easy. So to that creative out there where you're saying, yes, it's possible, what would you recommend for them to do as a starting point? Let's say they've done 10,000 in photography clients, and they're like, I don't know where I'm going to get my next 50K from, but I want to turn it into my full-time gig. What would you recommend for them to do?
Yeah, so I'll unpack a few great questions you just asked me there. Great questions. First one, how do I land more clients? Or basically, start with the first one. Don't get distracted. Well, how do I get these big clients, and how do I get 10? You need the first one, because the first one sets the tone. Because the first one, I'm going to help you set it up where you're doing the backstage photos, the little video in the background that we always forget to do because it's a one-off. You never really thought you're going to be, I'll never do this again. Yeah, that's what we're planning, right? So we're going to prep that up. We're going to get those testimonials. A lot of things I missed doing for years. I didn't ask for testimonials. Do the little screenshots, the back end video, all that little details that'll help get 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 10 clients much faster. Currently today, right now, as we're recording this, I have a video that I did backstage of a time lapse when I was on the New England Patriots field at Foxborough Stadium on the 50-yard line doing photos. I looked at it a couple of days ago when they called me, and I posted this video 13 years ago. 13 years ago, I used it to show the new team at the Patriots, because they shift teams, of what I could do and what the capabilities were. You look at it today, it's just as current as today. And it was 13 years ago, a video that I did. Call it mindset of thinking future in the future, but I always thought, what could this look like times 100, times 10, right? And that's where I can help people, right? Think 10 times, not just 10 times bigger, right? But 100 times bigger. And not to actually get there, but just get our minds to think differently. So start with the first one. 2, how do we get people? First thing, if you're a photographer, you listen to this, Don't hire another photographer. Okay. You are already the photographer. You're going to be that. And that's where you are in your business. Don't hire another photographer. I used to say I would love to hire somebody at like Starbucks or the local coffee shop. Those are the people I would hire because they were great with customer service. They were great with people. They didn't know technology and cameras. I didn't want them to know that. I want them to be good with people because I'm the expert. I can tell them how to shoot the photo because it really was about the photo and it is about the people. But we got to look at different spots. Don't hire another photographer.
I think that's really great advice. What would that first hire be for a new photographer who's, making 100K, 500K a year, and they're like, I need help? What do you think they should hire first?
Yeah. So an assistant, even virtual. And I'll tell you why. A guy with ADHD like myself, so I can speak very clearly on my own beliefs on this. But you can believe what you want. But there is something called the buddy system when you have ADHD and you're with somebody and the momentum goes, you stay on track. I always brought somebody, not knowingly, I've always had somebody with me at a photo shoot. And I'd stay on track. I would talk to them like, okay, here's the strategy. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what's going to happen. And basically, I was telling myself what to do. They just happened to be there. If they did nothing, they did everything because it kept me on point, on time. Hey, Scott, when am I going to be there? What am I going to wear? Okay, you have to be there. Do this, do that. I was telling myself what to do. And this buddy system that we have in ADHD and people, go deep dive this, but having a buddy system keeps you accountable. And honestly, that was gold to me.
Yeah. Yeah. That accountability piece is so, so important. And I actually specifically, when I was struggling building my own marketing agency, I looked at myself and I said, oh, wait a second, I'm running monthly marketing meetings and reviewing over KPIs for my clients, but I'm not even doing that for myself.
Right.
And so I set a meeting with my team because I know if I put it in my calendar and it's just me, I might skip it. I might not show up, doesn't matter. But then as soon as I had that accountability to it, then I'm like, okay, I got to show up to it. I got to come with my numbers, and it just keeps me on track. So that accountability piece is huge. And now you've started the camera focus method. Can you explain exactly what this is?
Yeah. So mine was, after talking to 800 photographers, there's one common denominator. It wasn't that they weren't good photographers. They were phenomenal photographers. Honestly, I didn't think I was a great photographer. They're better than me. Really were. They are. But they weren't great at marketing and sales. And to be honest with you, there was a time pre-COVID where you almost didn't even have to make sales calls. Calls kind of came in. Leads came in over the website. Call it something happened with Google or search engines or whatever. I don't know. Right. But I know for a fact myself in 2017, 15, 16, 12, right. All that era, I didn't make one sales call. I couldn't keep up with the calls coming in. True story. But today that's different. That's different. And what you need to do is you need to implement a sales team within yourself, as good as a New York life insurance agent, right? They're good. I say that because they're good. That's what we need to focus on and build a system where you have a CRM, you have a sales script, you know your why, and everything gets a lot clearer.
And is that something that you help teach to creatives running their businesses? I think you've thrown out a few words that a lot of people might not even know of, right? Like CRM. And
right.
A sales scripts and or even sales outlines. So is that included in the camera focus method? And what exactly do you provide to people who follow the method?
Yeah. So again, after seeing so many photographers for such a long time, trying to meet them where they're at, but which when I rate the program, I know where they're at. So I can put people in different starting points. Some people just starting their careers. They had a great corporate career, and maybe they took an early layoff package, right? And they got to start over again. They always want to get back into the photography, world again. And it's like, where do I start? What do we do? How do we do it? I have one member now, this photographer years ago, had a photography studio. But then he himself got married and he had 10 kids. So he took the short bet and took the corporate job for a while. Now the kids are all growing up, doing his thing. He said, I'm going back to my photography career. So it was many years he stepped away. And so he's been in the program for a few months, and he just did a bridal show last Sunday, and he landed, four new brides contracts, right? It was worth, over $12,000 in deals for him. I've been doing this a long time. Nobody closes at a bridal show, right? That's amazing. I said, good job. And he had what it took, but he just needs to know his confidence level, really, which isn't in the book. It is in the worksheets. But the conversations with me almost as good as a semester in college somewhere, right? And that small shift, that small change, he thought he was old. He's older. All these younger people on Instagram, they're doing better than him. I said, no, we got to change that. You're the legacy photographer. He's what? I said, you're the legacy photographer, just like me, right? That's powerful. People want to work with people that know what to do and how to do it. You got to tell them, how's this going to happen? This is when I work at your wedding, here's what's going to happen. Well, I'm going to do this, X, Y, Z. And at the end of the day, you sell the vision of exactly what's going to happen and that you got it. And I have this no matter what. That's what they want to hear. Not, well, what do you want to do with this? And what do you want to do that? They don't want to ask questions. They turn it to you to be the expert. Tell them, right? And being a legacy photographer, you can be at any age, honestly, right? But it's about just owning it.
Yeah, that's huge. It sounds like from my world in the digital marketing world, we call those like productized services, where it's like, hey, this is my wedding package. This is what you can expect. You get this many pre-calls with me. You're going to be, we're going to sit down for this shoot at the time, and you walk people through exactly how it's going to go, instead of where I would find like a lot of like freelancers who are like struggling. Every single client call they go into, they're like, well, what do you want? Okay, I can do that. Sure, I can do this. I can do this. Yeah, sure. And then they're putting together this thing, and some things they don't feel confident in, and some things they're like, okay, I guess I could do that, but I don't know what to charge for it. And they get like, in my mind, it's chaos. I call this the Lifestyle Entrepreneur Show because I'm here to build a business that allows me to live a life, an amazing quality life. And part of that is like, having calm and peace. And I think if you're running your business trying to like please everyone, you're going to please no one, and you're going to give yourself a lot of headaches. So you mentioned the conversation with yourself inside the camera focus method. There's photographers out there that are struggling, like, they're like, I would love to join the camera focus method, get some conversations with you. Are those one-on-one conversations? Do you do group calls? What exactly is included? Because I know a lot of people would love to have conversations with you, and, National Geographic photographer, shooting for the Patriots, and what exactly is included inside the camera focus method?
Yeah, no, good question. But, going back to my why, right? And this venture, right, is solo entrepreneurship, living a lifestyle business, the photographer. And if I'm going to help other people do that, I feel like I need to be the same person, not build this $1 million coaching program. Could I? Probably, perhaps. I don't want to. That's not my why. My why is to be a solo entrepreneur at world headquarters in the suburbs of Boston, downstairs in my basement, as I'm filming this video with you, and proud of it. And that's my why. I have a sales team. They get on the call. When people get on a call with me, it's me. First thing I say is, I'm not the sales guy. I'm the guy. And second thing I say is, I don't even know if I can help you. I don't. It's like walking to a doctor's office. Hey, doctor, can you help me? I don't know. What's your problem? So I'm not there to sell. I'm not there to, I want to know if I can actually help you, first off. And a lot of people, I can't. I know I can't. I can and I can't. So that's the most important thing. I stick to what I teach is solo entrepreneurship, living exactly. This is what attracted me to you. What you do, living that entrepreneurship lifestyle, right? Isn't this what we do? This is what it was supposed to be. And I missed that in 2019. It went big, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But let's have a system in place, which I have. Let's have a playbook, which I have. And let's pick and choose who you want to work with, which I do. And that's exactly the same thing I want to help these photographers with. And I practice what I preach.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And for entrepreneurs listening to this, like, the best sales tactic or script is doing exactly what Scott just said, which is like saying, I'm not here to sell you. I'm here to figure out if I can help you. If I can, cool, we can have a conversation. But like, if I can't, I'm going to go somewhere else. And yeah, because like, I see so many client data from so many different industries, and we know that like the people who land on your website, your landing page, versus who books a call, who actually sign up, it's a funnel. You get drop-offs, like pretty significant drop-offs, and you can't be everything for everyone. And so you are going to get no's, and you are going to get people that are not the right fits. And that's the point. The point is to run a business that you want to run. And I know I've made the mistake too of like taking on clients that, just because I thought I wanted more money, and I would do it, and then they would take up all my time. I'd be miserable. And then I ended up firing them. And it was the best thing that I ever did. And like, saying no to 6 figures a year from one client is like a big thing to say no to,
Yeah.
but it made my life and my business and my team just so much better.
Yeah.
So Scott, if someone wants to work with you, where can they go?
Yeah, real simple. Just go to camerafocus.com, take a look at the website, click on the application. We do take applications, and book a call and have a conversation.
Awesome. And
Awesome.
what about any sort of content on social media? And I know you have a podcast too. Anywhere else you want to send people to follow
Yeah, so,
you?
kind of like being that photographer creator. I'm on IG, as they say, right? I'm on IG, Instagram, scottproposki.com, just about like my name. I post little little tips and tricks, get people's interest there. And I'm not dancing on TikTok. Don't need to, really. That's why you got everybody else dancing on the videos, because they bring the people to the channel, and then boom, is somebody with great content, right? That's how it's supposed to work. So yeah, just go to Instagram, look me up there, camerafocus.com, have a conversation, see if I can help you.
And I will include links to all of those underneath this video or in the show notes. So Scott, thank you very much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure having you, and I look forward to touching base with you again in the future.